गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गन शॉट। गन शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। Today we are going to start a series on China. The first of the series is, can China escape its own traps in its quest to be a superpower? Look at the graphic. And this is a Chinese graphic. It's not my graphic. Right? Where China is marching ahead to be a superpower and there are traps laid all around. And these traps have been laid by themselves. And to start this entire series with this particular episode, I must welcome General Rajiv Narayanan first. Rajiv, good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot. And we're going to start this series, like we said. Your initial thoughts on it, and then we'll get to the subject proper.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure to be on your channel. Yes, self-imposed traps. And ऐसे जैसे कार्टून में दिखाते हैं कि you're painting and you paint yourself in a corner. Now you don't know, you got to wait for the paint to dry to walk across. And you have to keep waiting there, you don't know how you get across. यहाँ non-dryable paint डाल दिया उसने, अब he doesn't know how to get out. पूरे traps हैं उसके, self-inflicted. And maybe that's the reason, like we had discussed earlier, so the CPC has clipped Xi Jinping's wings. His policies are being reversed, but being reversed by the uninitiated who have no clue about what they are doing, and which brings in more traps.
Yeah. What General Rajiv Narayanan has said is absolutely right. When you step back away from China and don't look at the mundane, and this is what both of us did. In fact, I requested him that, look, just step back, take a, we've had a deal on the LAC. I wouldn't say deal, it's more of an arrangement. It's a patrolling arrangement. It's a patrolling solution, as the Chinese call it. And we have to now be more engaging with China, which we will have to. There's no choice on that. Now, if we are going to engage more with China, we need to know exactly what China is up to and what China is capable of or not capable of. It is with this in view, that we are starting this series. So, what's going to come ahead in this series? We're going to see today the traps which China laid out for itself and see whether it can get out of them. Then we're going to see that, look, China is declining. There's no doubt, whether it's economic or demography or many issues, which we've always discussed. But how do we deal with them on the LAC and probably the northern borders, where you are also confronted with the collapsing Pakistan? So that's one part we have to. Then, how do you deal with the economically declining China, but still over-ambitious enough to enter the Indian Ocean region? Right? How do you deal with it economically? How do you deal with it geopolitically? And when we talk of the geopolitical issue and the economic issue, by then Mr. Trump would be in his full form. So we'll factor that also in as to how it's going to pan out. Because we need to have a new game plan to deal with China. With this, I'll hand you over to
I would expand that to say to deal with China under a maverick-led US.
Yes. Okay. And a maverick.
That umbrella overhang.
Overhang is always.
He's a total maverick. We don't even know what to expect in Trump 2.0.
Yeah. The only thing which is guaranteed or which is predictable about Trump 2.0 is this: he is going to be unpredictable. Okay. So it's going to be an interesting series which we'll start. And in between, we're going to do a series on the climate change, which is definitely placing limits on Chinese power, and demography, which is going to kill Chinese power ultimately. So with this, I'll hand you over to Narayanan. Rajiv, all yours. Please take over.
Yes. So basically, what I'm giving is, can China escape its own traps? No, these are not something which he did today. It is over a period of time from the 80s and all they have done. And the chickens are coming home to roost and they don't know what to do. So what exactly, I've called it a mousetrap. For the uninitiated, a mousetrap is written by Agatha Christie. वर्ल्ड का लॉन्गेस्ट रनिंग प्ले है. It's about the traps in which you set yourself and then you get caught in that. I leave it at that for people to read the play or see the play online. It's still running from the 50s, last century 50s, it's still running. तो क्या था? One child policy and demographic decline. I'll touch on that. The irredeemable economic slide. The crash of the reality. Now that was the goose that laid the golden eggs, and the collapsing bank. The purges, creating multifront challenges for themselves. किसी ने बोला नहीं था आपको करने के लिए. And the high-tech thefts that he has been trying to do, and the blowback that has happened. So we'll take one by one. Now, one-child policy. Now, implemented with full force since 25th September 1980. 𝗤𝙁 𝗵𝗃 के time में. Xi Jinping has revoked it in January 1st, 2016, but it doesn't look like anything will happen in a hurry. They felt at that time, 40 साल पहले, this is what they felt. There's too many, the population is very high, so our growth is not fast. So faster growth, they forced, how many men were medically castrated, women के uterus निकाल दिए थे, to enforce strictly this one-child policy. And it has now resulted in what people say, what we have been discussing normally, 4-to-1 problem. 4-to-1 means one person has 2 parents and has 4 grandparents. That is the load if he is not married. When he gets married, it becomes 8-4-2. And after that adds the children. Now you're wanting more than one child, so that load also will be taken by them. And what has happened in between? You've totally shifted from communism to out and out capitalism. And it's become very costly out there. Cost of living is quite high in the cities. And that is the reason in the economic slide you find that there is a reverse migration. People are going back towards rural areas, that at least there I can do the farming and 1 या 2 1.5 वक्त या 2 वक्त की रोटी मिलेगी मुझे, यहाँ तो कुछ नहीं है. Because of this, today there is a very sharp increase in the aged population and a decrease in working age population. What are the evidences that are coming? First, a whole lot of pre-primary and primary schools are getting shut down, thousands of them, because they have no children to teach. But they're getting converted to old people's medical clinic, geriatric medical clinic, and for senior citizens, which indicates a aging population that you need clinics separately for them. And where are they being run? In those creches and pre-primary and primary schools that you have made. People are not marrying. Their number of people who are registering for marriage is crashing down. So obviously, no children coming out, population age, working age population going down. It is going to have a very negative impact, which is already having, on its comprehensive national power. Where do you get the labor? Where do you get the manpower? The fact that this is a problem, another indicator from CNP, I'm saying, you were doing conscription once a year. It was not happening. So from around 2015 or so, you made it biannually so that you can do it twice a year to bring people inside. Now what has happened? You're still not getting people. So you're trying to coax the retired people and the reservists to come back again to work for you, to fill up the gap.
Yeah. Can I add? Can I
sir.
add a few issues in this?
Sure, sure,
You
sure.
know, yeah, the interesting part in this is, you see, they started this two-child policy in 2016. Okay. But they knew that this problem is going to come in 2003. In 2003, it was every demographer said, look, we're going to have a population problem. They said, to hell with it. वो तो 2030 में होने वाला है. And this is recorded. In fact, they gave such false data to everyone. The IMF and the World Bank said that, look, by 2030, you'll have a population decline problem. Okay. And in fact, in 2012, when Xi Jinping took over as the chairman of everyone, of everything, he was given a study called China 2030, which very clearly in that says the problem of your demography is coming up. Unless you look into it, you'll do nothing. Nothing will happen. 2016, they implement the two-child policy, but till 2020, they were collecting fines on people who had not, were not following. So this is the
One child.
kind of a one-child policy. So this is the kind of a trap they set for themselves, and now they won't get out of it. I mean, the fact that they won't get out of it is important, and I'd like your views on that, because that is something which is
So
critical.
they can never get out of it unless you go back to some sort of socialism, total socialism, where you're going to look after the people. The state looks after the people. That is anathema to you. You want to be totally capitalistic, being run by the Communist Party.
Yeah.
A lot of people make a mistake thinking that Communist Party hai, so it's communism. No, it's not a communist China. It's a capitalistic China being run by a single party, which is the Communist Party of China. And I've been to China. The cost of living is very high, extremely high. I'll give you a simple example. So Shanghai, not Shanghai, Chengdu, Sichuan University. I had an LO, married chap. His father was a senior man, party worker in the party hierarchy in Chengdu. Very senior. He and his mother, both were very senior. Because of that, he had done his graduation in Canada and was to do his masters. He had just started his masters after a 4-year gap. So I asked him, why 4-year gap? He said the cost is very expensive. And because his parents and his wife's parents were all high up in the provincial hierarchy of the Communist Party, they permitted him to set up a fast food joint in the party headquarters. He earned money from that, and now he's come to pay. And the simple thing he said, sir, I have a 1-room suite. There is just one room, there is a kitchen and there is a bathroom. That room is your bedroom, your drawing room, your any room, everything. That is that room. Simple. Room, kitchen, toilet, bathroom. And he was paying, and I'm talking of 2018, 2,700 yuan per month. Whereas if he had stayed in a dormitory, he would have paid 100 yuan per month. And he says they were married for about 6 years now. And is like normal, he said, Asia, it's normal, all parents get after us to have a child. He says, I can't afford it. My wife is not working. She hasn't got a job. I'm studying. Whatever my savings is, at the end of the day, it will finish. I really don't know what I'm going to do once I finish my master's. I need a job. The professor who was with me, who had called me and was taking me around, his own kids were not studying in Chengdu. They were studying in the outskirts in the rural area with his parents because it was cheaper there. The schooling was cheaper there, and here it was very expensive. He couldn't afford it. Why? Another thing, just to show off to the world that our people are doing well, people don't know. There are strict orders. You cannot drive small cars in these big metro cities. हम देखते ना, अरे टैक्सी इतना बड़ा बड़ा है. I spoke to the taxi wala. He says, I cannot drive. If I I have a small car which is outside in my village. The professor himself was saying, I'm riding this car on compulsion. I've taken it out today on compulsion to take it because I'm taking you out to various places. I'm getting paid by the university to host you and take you around. If I'm not paid, the car is there for a little bit of journey. I can't afford to run this car. Where is a small car? It is with his parents, outskirts of Chengdu. अब ये दिखावा कैसे आप लास्ट करोगे? One child. How are you going to manage now? होम टू टोम पहले देखते थे तो बच्चे होते थे, अब तो बच्चे ही नहीं है, और बच्चे करने के लिए they don't have the money to pay for it.
Yeah.
So that is a big trap they have got them into, that you have shifted from communism to capitalism. So all costs all around has gone up. It's just gone through the roof.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. So this is a trap people are not going to get out of. Let's see the next trap.
Yes. Now we come to the next one, is this irredeemable economic slide. Their complete economy, 70% was dependent on exports. And of course, 30% was reality, which I'll come to it later. So let's talk of export. The exports were totally dependent on US and the West. And here comes Xi Jinping with a death wish and takes an aggressive stance against them. हिंदी में कहते हैं, जिस थाली में खाते हो उसमें छेद नहीं करते, या जल में रह के मगरमच्छ से बैर नहीं लेते आप. You did exactly that. There was no internal consumption even then. And since 2002, Hu Jintao himself has been pushing for internal consumption. But when you're totally export oriented, you were happy with whatever little internal consumption was coming, little realizing that internal consumption the people were able to do because they were getting their salaries from these export dependent companies. When the companies collapsed now, what happened? Now, under Deng Xiaoping, you still had a controlled open market, I would say. थोड़ा बहुत पार्टी का oversight था, but you let the private players run loose. Jack Ma and gang came up then. Now under Mao, you're going back to full party control, back to Maoism. Now open economy, capitalism doesn't function that way. No? You can't say that I will dictate to you, but you will be capitalistic. It doesn't function that way. And you purged all the private players. It's not lost on them what you did to Jack Ma. In between, there were a lot of videos emerging of him teaching in the rural classroom and other things.
School master ban gaya na wo.
School master bhi ban gaya wo to. So if you're going after private players and now you are telling them we must improve private players, where is the trust? You destroyed them. And the biggest destruction was the Wuhan COVID virus and your enforced zero virus policy. Means that even if one person you found one COVID virus somewhere, the whole city was sealed. Areas were literally sealed. Sealed matlab literally sealed. ताला लगा देते थे. और बाहर पुलिस तैनात हो जाता 3 साल के लिए. Now when you're export dependent economy and you were the global supply chain hub, obviously the other companies are not going to wait for you to come out of the zero COVID policy. They would have found alternate sources. Now when he suddenly removed it, when just before he anointed himself for the 3rd term, there was so much of expression of angst by the people who came out on the street, that blank white paper and anti Xi Jinping for the first time by name it happened. You suddenly decided without any thought of how to pull out of it. Okay, open up, no zero COVID policy. How many would have died, we don't know after that. But companies have not come back. At that time, I had read the reports. A lot of their companies were dependent, used to have their work cut out from around August till about November, a little bit, end November, beginning December, which was where they used to make the gift wrapping, the packaging for the Christmas presents. A lot of Christmas presents were made out there and sent. 3 years zero COVID policy. ऐसा तो नहीं है कि West Christmas celebrate नहीं करेगा. They found alternate sources. When you opened the zero COVID policy, zero work after that. Those companies have shut because none of the Western companies give them any orders. So I'm just giving an example कि बाकियों का क्या हुआ. Now, while he was doing all this, there has been a splurge in infra, both internal and external. BRI, almost zero returns. The banks have collapsed. One of the 4 big banks which was supporting this, BRI, one of them is the Agricultural Bank of China. That's applied for bankruptcy. Provincial banks started collapsing because of NPAs. You started ordering the big banks to take over that provincial banks, as if they didn't have their NPAs. And concurrently, you purged all your economists. अब economy की बात कौन करता है? 𝙒𝙧𝙤𝙬, who has been his PA all through from Zhejiang days, that chap, or the इनके propagandist and publicist है Wang Huning. These people are talking, and Li Qiang, who doesn't know anything about economy, ये बात करेंगे economy के बारे में. Economists who talk and write are getting purged, are getting jailed.
They've already been purged. This program has been on for the past, they're gone.
So how are you going to redeem yourself?
I just want to add one issue here. This business of infrastructure. They built infrastructure which is not giving them returns, and then climate change is breaking that infrastructure which they can't rebuild. And this is what I'm going to highlight in my climate change series. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised as to what's happening in China. And I think a lot of things is happening in China, and it will be the next superpower and all. Out of question. Mushkil hai.
Then you look at the crash of realty, most famous, Evergrande and all, and the collapsing banks. Firstly, let's be clear, it was the avarice of the realty companies. They used to take in money, build something, start another project, shift money there, build something more. And it was also the manner in which, when the second portion I'm saying, the local government financial vehicles, which was based also on reality. Because land in China is not owned by anyone who's constructed it there. It's on lease. It's owned by the government. So it's owned by the province. You lease it to an X person. Once he builds it, once the lease term is over, he's got to pay you back again to restart the lease. And he's paying tax on that lease that he has taken. That is the major earning which used to come for the provinces from that. Then you had the COVID and the economic collapse, and your realty sector has started collapsing. And the banks concurrently also started collapsing because the banks were giving them all the loans. The banks were giving out the financial vehicles of the provincial government. Now everything became an NPA. And then what has happened? Now you're trying to reduce the interest rate. For a bank to function, it's called a net interest margin. Like, I have money in your bank, whether as an FD or even as a account, you have to give me X amount of interest on that. So you would have noticed every quarter आपके बैंक में वो interest आपका लगता है, even in your savings account. FD लेता हूं तो वो interest डाल के आपको every year आपको बताना पड़ता है कि आपके पैसे कितने बढ़ गए. Right? Then if I take a loan, the bank takes extra so that there is a gap in this from which he can manage the functioning of his bank. So the normal net interest margin typically is supposed to be minimum 2.85, if not more. most of their banks are running at 1.5, and the agricultural bank, which has applied for bankruptcy, was last heard to be running at 0.75. You can't run a bank with such low margins, and you are enforcing the reduction of interest rates on loans and other things, on mortgages, without keeping in mind that what is the kind of interest you have ordered the bank to give for holding an account there. How will the bank function? I am not an economist, but इतना तो दिमाग है मेरे पास यार कि अगर मैं आपको इंटरेस्ट दे रहा हूं, आपको एफडी पे इंटरेस्ट दे रहा हूं, जैसे आज के तारीख पे अबाउट 8-9% है. If I take a loan from you, you will at least tell me that you have to give me 12%, if not more, 11.5-12%. उसके ऊपर आप मांगोगे मेरे से इंटरेस्ट. आप उनको बोल रहे हो कि नहीं, आप उसको आप 9% पे दोगे, 8.5 पे वो आपको इंटरेस्ट देना है. 9% मतलब how is the function? No wonder the banks are collapsing. अभी वो एनपीए के लिए लिमिट था कि आप इतना ही दे सकते हो, इतना गैप, इतने पैसे वगैरह रहने हैं, तो वो एनपीए हो रहा है. नाउ यू आर इंक्रीजिंग दैट लिमिट कि इट इज लाइक मेरे पास एक क्रेडिट कार्ड है, based on my assessment what my amount is there in the bank says that your monthly expenditure on this cannot exceed 5 lakhs. If I go over it, matlab it becomes an NPA. I can't pay it back. अब आप उसको डबल करके बोल रहे हो कि नहीं, अब आप 10 लाख कर दो. 5 लाख पे आपका मैनेज नहीं हो रहा, आप बोल रहे हो 10 लाख देना शुरू कर दो. कहां से देगा जब वापस पैसे नहीं आ रहे हैं? If you have your monthly, if you have money in the bank, monthly you are not allowed to draw more than 3,000 yuan, and for that there is a form you got to fill in and give it, that where have you earned this money from, वो देना पड़ता. वो लिमिट रख रखा है. पीपल विल 8 साल पहले हुआ था अपना नोटबंदी. So when you went, the banks had given a limit कि 4,000 या 5,000, इससे ऊपर आप ले नहीं सकते. वो लिमिट चल रहा है इनका. So the way they have, I feel कि पूरा जो इन्होंने इकोनॉमिक का ढांचा बनाया था, the structure itself, the macro and the micro structure itself was defective, and now they have come home to roost. कोई इकोनॉमिस्ट कोई है नहीं इनके पास अभी. Who is going to give you the correct way ahead कि how to correct it step by step? It cannot happen overnight. If he thinks मैंने एक स्विच दबाया, एक पॉलिसी दे दिया और वो ठीक हो जाएगा, होगा नहीं. It won't happen. Like रियल्टी सेक्टर को बोला था मैं गवर्नमेंट ले लेगा. गवर्नमेंट क्या लेगा? खाली ढांचा है वहां पे. Like when the people did not give the mortgage back and started refusing to give back the EMI, the bank said we will take over that flat of yours. The people said you're welcome. तो बैंक वहां गया तो बाहर का खाका खाली था, फ्लैट तो था ही नहीं वहां. वो खाका लेके क्या करोगे उस स्ट्रक्चर को लेके जब कुछ बना नहीं है अंदर? आंख मीच के ही saying that the government will take it over and look after it. Where are you going to look after it? What are you going to do with it? There are no flats there. There's just an external structure. How are you going to resolve it? I don't know. I'm not an economist. But it has crashed, and no country can take a double-digit hit. And reality was almost 1/3 of their GDP. That's taken a big hit. Even if we say कि exports he'll still be able to manage, because export zero तो होगा नहीं. Dependency on low and medium tech काफी है इसका. But 30%, how is he going to manage his GDP? No country can take a hit of double-digit, and he has no answer how to go forward. And a lot of people are crying. Yes, a lot of people had invested there as an investment, but a sizable chunk had also invested there for going and living and put in all their savings there. अब वो खत्म हो गया. जॉब भी नहीं है, ये भी खत्म हो गया. लोन बचा हुआ है बैंक के साथ जो पे नहीं कर सकता. ये स्थिति है आज आम आदमी का in China.
Yeah.
Would you like to add anything, sir?
No. Go ahead. Just go ahead.
अब लेके आते हैं जो उसने किया था, द पर्जेस, द फेमस पर्जेस विच ही स्टार्ट. ही मिसयूज द एंटी करप्शन फसाड, और अब उसके आड़ में उसने अपने ओपोनेंट्स विद इन सीपीसी पीएलए खत्म कर दिया, उसके लाइकली सक्सेसर्स को खत्म कर दिया. एक दो बेचारे जो पॉलिट ब्यूरो में थे, सोच रहे थे कि स्टैंडिंग कमेटी में आ जाएंगे, जो इसी के बंदे थे, हुनचुनवा और चेन मिनेर, उनको तो सेंट्रल कमेटी में भी नहीं रखा, उसने साइडलाइन कर दिया. Because he wanted to be like Mao, that I'll be greater than Mao and I will take China out and I lead everything. कुछ हुआ ही नहीं. और एक बात मैं यहाँ बता देता हूँ कि जब ये बना भी था तब इसके जो साथ के लोग थे वो कह रहे थे दैट थोड़ा मंद बुद्धि है ये, बट the only thing about it is he is very obstinate, and if he thinks about something he will go about it, whether good, bad, indifferent, he is not interested, but मंद बुद्धि है, समझ थोड़ा कम आता है. अब धीरे धीरे उसके अगेंस्ट मरमस तो शुरू होंगे यार, क्योंकि जब पर्ज करते हो आप एक कोई सीनियर को, वो अकेला सीनियर और उसका फैमिली इफेक्ट नहीं होता ना, उनका एक्सटेंडेड फैमिली हुट होता है, उसका पर्सनल स्टाफ होता है, और पर्सनल स्टाफ के एक्सटेंडेड फैमिली गेट साइडलाइंड, और फिर जो हैंड पिक्ड उसके स्टाफ होते हैं, उसके बंदे जो उसके साथ काम कर रहे होते हैं, उनके भी एक्सटेंडेड फैमिली गेट, एंड उनके क्लोज फ्रेंड्स जो होते हैं, दे कम अंडर अ क्लाउड. So it impacts a lot of people, and murmurs were coming up in the manner in which we saw जब 20th Congress हो रहा था, तब how many people had come out on the streets. बीजिंग के ब्रिज के ऊपर उसके अगेंस्ट अपने प्लेकार्ड्स लग गए थे. और अब लग रहा है पीएलए और सीपीसी, पीएलए में उसका खुद का जो ब्लड ब्रदर बोलता था, 𝗤𝙗𝘅 हैज कम आउट, बिकॉज उसके मेंटर्स, उसके बनते जिनको वो मेंटर करता था, उनके शागिर्द जो होते थे, उन सबको इसने साइडलाइन कर दिया. बिगेस्ट ली शांगफू. नाउ स्लोली यू फाइंड दैट पीएलए में भी स्प्लिट है. 3 थिएटर कमांडर, 2 थिएटर कमांडर और एक में तो थिएटर कमांडर सेंटर में लगाया नहीं, ये पॉलिटिकल कमिश्नर है, वो इसके बंदे हैं. एंड बाकी 2 तो कैन डू नथिंग, बिकॉज वेस्टर्न थिएटर हमारे साथ फंसा हुआ है और ईस्टर्न थिएटर तो पूरा फंसा हुआ है इन ताइवान एंड साउथ चाइना से. और सीपीसी में भी, क्योंकि अभी क्लियर दिख रहा है सिंस अगस्त दिस ईयर, मोस्ट ऑफ हिज डिसीजंस आर गेटिंग, स्पेशली इकोनॉमिक, 180 डिग्रीज टर्न हो गया. If this has come through, that means there is going to be an internal power struggle which will come up. So the question, big question is who next? कौन आएगा? Who is coming? सीपीसी से या बाहर से? कौन है ये बंदा जो अब आएगा to take charge? So they are going through really a crisis. So who's going to emerge as their God-sent chap who's going to get them out of a turmoil? और यूथ ऑल्सो हैज बिकम वेरी रेस्टिव, क्योंकि उनके अनसर्टन फीचर हैं. इसके ऊपर मैंने और जनरल शंकर ने बात किया हुआ है. फ्रॉम तांगपिंग टू बाइलान टू रुनशुए भागने के सब. एंड बाय द वे, ईयर 2023, 24 एंड 24, the maximum illegal migrants through Mexico into USA are Chinese and military age, working age Chinese men. यहां आपका वर्किंग एज पॉपुलेशन कम हो रहा है और वो वहां भाग के जा रहे हैं, वर्किंग एज मेन. So the biggest question which comes is, can CPC survive this challenge or will it implode? Because this is an existential crisis for CPC. You have to come out and see, otherwise problem आएगा.
Yeah, one point I wanted to add. The issue of which you said, who's the next chap? And that's a big question. Look, we must understand, till Xi Jinping was appointed as, the president in 2012, there was a system whereby a next chap was identified, he was groomed, put into place, and in the hierarchy. Now, 2012 to now 24, 12 years have passed, we don't see the next guy. And I don't think Xi Jinping will give up. He might go into a 4th term also, the way he's doing things, because this is being called the Xi Jinping era. You had the Mao era, the Deng era, and this is the Xi Jinping era.
30 years each. They call it the 330-year era. Now, if tomorrow Xi Jinping goes away, there's no leadership.
बिल्कुल
Just think, there's no leadership. Who's the big guy who can handle this economy? The two things in this which we must all understand. Whether whatever happens to China, purge, ये वो trap, शो भी हम बोलते हैं, it will still remain a big economy with a big population. At least for the next 15-20 years. Okay? And the second thing is, as time goes, the problems, internal problems in China will get more complicated. They will get more complicated. There are no two ways about it. The internal contradictions of China will become more complicated. So in this kind of a scenario, when your economy is going, your demography is going down, everything is going, the next big question, what General Rajiv Narayanan has said, who next? If you don't have a leader, what will happen to this country? That is the big problem. Are we going back to the days of the transfer of power between Mao and Deng Xiaoping? When Mao died, there was a strongman like Deng Xiaoping who could take over. We don't see anyone here. And hence the square which is put down below, will it implode, comes into play. I think very apt slide. Yeah, please carry on. Sorry.
To add to what you mentioned, when he became the CPC chairman, handpicked and placed was 𝗠𝙁𝙁𝘁𝘀, who was supposed to take over after him. But just before his second term, he arrested him and purged him and threw him out. Then, in his second term, he had handpicked Hun Chunhwa and Chen Binair. They were good people, so the elders had placed them in Politburo. So they were both expecting that in his third term, they might come into standing committee. उनको तो central committee में भी नहीं रखा, निकाल दिया. So it is amazing.
The depth of the purge is pretty deep.
Pretty deep, very deep.
Right, very deep. And that many people don't understand. What we see is BYD cars, all this nonsense, solar panels and all that. But you have to understand China from a different...
I will highlight further. It is something like whoever comes will be like Trump in his first term.
Bas.
When Trump came in his first term, he had no clue about governance. So now whoever comes, like people talk of Chang Yu-jia, who is in the PLA, he has no clue about governance. He has held nothing anywhere. So at least one thing we have to grant to Deng Xiaoping, Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao, that the successors were groomed and put in place so that the next chap can take over. Whoever we thought like Li Qiang to is gone. He can only
the
play
transfer of power. Yeah, the guitar bajayega. The transfer of power is important. You see in USA, Trump has won. Biden has said there will be a peaceful transfer of power. So the peaceful transfer of power, if it doesn't happen in China, China will go down very badly. And this is something which we have to see, and that is a crucial question. There's no problem at this point of time, but khadda aage hai. Khadda aage hai. Bas, yeah.
Multifront challenges. जापान के साथ, साउथ कोरिया के उधर, अपने with Taiwan, Philippines, Vietnam, artificial islands, India, now with Russia by reclaiming that 𝗤𝙗𝘖 island on 𝗤𝙗𝘂𝗍𝑒, सबके साथ फ्रंट खोल दिया. माओ का एक, he claims to be a good follower of Mao. माओ का एक स्टैंडर्ड स्ट्रैटेजी था कि concentrate on the primary threat and manage your secondary threats. पंगा सब तरफ मत खड़ा करो, एक प्राइमरी थ्रेट के ऊपर कॉन्सेंट्रेट करो काउंटर करने के लिए, मैनेज द अदर्स. इसने तो सब तरफ प्राइमरी थ्रेट कर रखे. एंड नॉट ओनली नाउ यू हैव एक्सटर्नल, नाउ यू हैव इंटरनल डायनेमिक्स आल्सो चैलेंज, जो अभी बताया था. एंड as far as the PLA is concerned, the Communist Party always feels that power flows from the barrel of the gun. the PLA at the moment is at its weakest with questionable commanders, because it's not merit but loyalty that has brought them up. They have not been able to absorb the technologies, new technologies in the platforms that they have put. It will take time. And the equipment itself is coming under a cloud. It's a question. आ रहा है, अभी तक clarity नहीं है कि is it dependable or not. Because most of the places where he has sold the equipment, because he has diverted the OEMs only in making new platforms, they are not being able to sustain them. So is he able to sustain them? He has got tremendous loss of face in the pullback that he has done in Eastern Ladakh. Now, how will she and CPC manage this? And I have not added here, 𝗤𝙗𝘅 now wants to take control of PLA. How does he manage the PLA? What does he do? किधर से लेके आएगा? आपको पास मैन पावर नहीं मिल रहे हैं. You're calling reservists to come back who are not ready to come back. You can't force them also, because then the word is out that you don't have people. If you don't have people, then where is the army? And my biggest question has always been, you can't use and fight with high-tech equipment with conscripts. You've not trained them on those high-tech equipment. So if 40% are going to be conscripts, how are you going to fight? It's very nice to say informatized, intelligence-ized, all this sounds nice on paper. How do you execute it on ground when your soldier is a conscript with basic training of drill, PT, and be able to fire his weapon? Not been taught anything.
Yeah. No, this is a very important point which General Rajiv Narayanan is making. You see, when you have 40% conscripts in the army, where are they going to be? They're going to be all at cutting edge fighting level. They're going to be down below. A chap who's just a conscript is not going to be in an AI-based command post. He doesn't have that experience. So he has to be in the field. And in that field, you're putting high-tech equipment, rockets, missiles, tanks, वो latest. वो चलाएगा कैसे उसको?
सर, एयरफोर्स है यार, चलो आपने पायलट को ट्रेन कर दिया. If the ground crew doesn't know how to maintain and get that aircraft ready, how is he going to fly?
You can't maintain. And अगर वो गलती भी करेगा, वो तोड़ के रखेगा. Who will replace that equipment?
Yes.
वो इतना, one of the problems of modernization. Yeah, people have to understand. One of the problems of modernization is that it's a very costly thing. If you don't know how to maintain it, if you don't know how to operate it, there will be more problems and more money you have to spend to keep that equipment on road and operational. And China is now in a state where
just to add, pardon my interruption, to add to what you say,
please.
US has trained manpower. They are finding it a problem on maintaining and sustaining their F-35s.
Yeah.
It takes them close to $2 million per aircraft just to be able to manage to sustain that aircraft with trained manpower. Now, if you have untrained manpower, just imagine what will happen to that aircraft.
Yeah, I'm with you completely. And this is a trap which they can never get out of.
Self-generated.
The more new equipment, no more new equipment come into the army, the bigger the problem it is. When I say army, Navy, Air Force, the bigger the problem.
And it is just his ego that I will make more than what America makes.
Yes, that's it.
And that is where you got caught in a trap. And just to remind the listeners, we had spoken about him trying to poach the Western pilots and others.
Trainers.
That means you don't have trainers to train your people. So it's a major issue.
Yeah.
Now, high-tech thefts and blowback. He suddenly decided, and he had openly stated in one of his speeches, if I remember correctly, in 2014, that we will jump one generation. And for the reaching up and equating them himself with the US and the West, he resorted to thefts of these emerging technologies. Now has come the blowback from the US and the West, denial of high tech. And more screws are going to come now in Trump 2.0. Latest is the US and the West have started putting curbs on visas for students from PRC. It was an open run. Tens and thousands of students used to go there and used to come back and utilize that. Now they are blocking that. And as far as the US is concerned, this issue, it's a bipartisan effort. So it's not going to make a difference whether Republicans are in power or Democrats are in power. By the way, these curbs were brought in by the Democrats. So, and so it is going to limit PRC essentially to low and medium tech exports. And that is the place where maximum dependency exists with the US and the West. They are looking at decoupling this also and de-risking and reducing it and creating other places. But if you look at it dispassionately in the region, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan still have a lot of dependencies for low and medium tech. There, a lot of MNCs are there on the mainland with supply. It makes economic sense because it is nearby, so transportation costs become less. If we expect them to shift base to India and then transport it all the way up, transport costs increases. At best, he's going to shift it maybe to Philippines, to Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam. वो पास में ही है, पास से ले आएगा. So the dependencies for these countries on China will stay, and these low and medium tech dependencies on the West is still staying. And the biggest dependency as far as the West is concerned as on date after the US is Germany. And Germany is not cutting out these things. So like the general said, that it will still stay as a major economic hub. It's not dying down. When we say he is sliding down, it is from the heights in which it was, from where it is coming down. Right? So if we say that he was on the 17th floor, he may have come down to the 8th floor. Now that is a big
drop.
drop.
And he can't go up. And he can't go up.
The 8th floor. ये 8th floor से निकलना नहीं है, because certain areas it makes logic and sense for them to utilize that. And in a similar manner, India के लिए मैं बताता हूँ, don't expect that you will go to the 17th floor. You might stay around 10th, 11th, 12th floor. Don't expect that you will go there. To go there, you have to make your own effort. You can't depend on them. Other दूसरों के help से आप at best 11th, 12th, 13th, maybe 14th floor तक पहुंचा देंगे आपको, to be a major regional hub in this region. Because that is one lesson learned from COVID, that don't put all the eggs in one basket. उसने बंद कर दिया तो they had to thrash around to find out alternate supply chain hubs, which they found. So they will create various regional hubs आपके लिए. The biggest pushback has been made in China 2025. And he enunciated it in 2015. Not that it was not there. It had been in place since Jiang Zemin had started working on it, and Hu Jintao was the main one who made a lot of focus. But he openly stated it in 2015, in 10 years I'll do this. And you know what has happened in 10 years. He's back to his drawing board.
Yeah.
So, but he is managing it in a different way. While he keeps saying that this will happen, we'll go to Cold War 2.0, bipolar, I'm not interested. He is openly creating a bipolar digital world by using a digital Silk Route. And is laying a lot of underground cables and other things. And that is where the importance of Gwadar comes in. Along that CPEC comes the digital Silk Route, and from Gwadar is where he is wanting to provide his version of internet connectivity and digital connectivity to Africa. So it will make it a bipolar digital world, one set following the Western controlled and internet, global internet, and the other whom is going to push with the BRI, utilizing the Chinese Weibo, WeChat, and their group of internets. So this is what is happening with him. Does he have the money now, with less funds now being available to him, since he's sliding down, going down in the lift from the top floor and coming down to the middle floor? Does he have that kind of money to lay? That is the big question mark which is left.
Going ahead. Yeah. I'll just end talk of two more traps which they set themselves. We were discussing just before the show started. There is a politico-ideological strategic trap which has set in. Xi Jinping's orientation is Maoist, Marxist, and Leninist in fundamental their model. Now, take any communist country, take anyone who's followed the Marxist-Leninist model, it does not lead to prosperity. It leads to collapse eventually. Such a country is always a rich state with poor people. And Mr. Xi Jinping is a firm believer of this political ideology. And that is what is being implemented today in China. Now, the thing is, Xi Jinping era has trapped China in an ideological stranglehold. Understand this. Karna kam as per Marxism, but paisa chahiye as per capitalism. Now, how they are not compatible. Okay. You have anything to say on this?
नहीं बिल्कुल सही बोला सर आपने. Capitalist है out and out. While he says he prefers these Maoist, Marxist, and Leninists, he also understands it won't lead to prosperity. So, in a Maoist, Marxist, Leninist model, the people are looked after from womb to tomb.
Womb to tomb, yeah.
Here he is not looking after. From womb to tomb, you got to pay.
Now, womb mein na tomb mein. He is not looking after people. Let's be very clear.
Payment they karna hai. So while a believer, like you said, he wants capitalism because the state wants to be richer than what a normal communist country is. But then that's a trap which he has got stuck into.
As it will not come out.
The devil and the deep sea.
Okay. The next point is this stimulus which they have started is failing. I mean, this is an extension of the previous thing. The stimulus is necessary. If China has to get out of its current stagnation, economic decline, low GDP, whatever it is, it needs a stimulus. There are two factors in this. Now, the stimulus is based on the political ideology, which I said earlier. Now, what is this political ideology all about? Okay. The fundamental thing is China if its stimulus has to be money into the hands of the people so that they start consumption. And if that starts consumer-based economy, then the people will slowly become rich. That is not acceptable for Xi Jinping and company. Because if the people are rich, then you're going back to the Deng era, which is now actually reversed the whole thing. So that is one trap. So it can't happen. Then there's another thing, this stimulus which we talk of today, a lot of people are talking. No one knows what has happened to the stimulus. That's a different story. I'll talk of it later. But in 2007, during the global financial crisis, China was actually going all guns blazing. Its economy was booming at 10-15% type, 2010, even till 11. So when they had the global financial crisis, they could just put up huge stimulus and boom their way out of it. That led to the 2015 stock market crash. Again, they went into a stimulus. That again pushed the thing back. They went into stimulus. There was a, halfway it went up, and then again it slid back. And ever since then, 2015, the economy is going down. So they don't know what to do with the stimulus. I mean, just think. You and I have taken a loan from the bank. Okay? I owe the bank and I'm paying a mortgage on a flat which I don't have as it because it's unfinished. It's lying as part of the ghost city. Now, Xi Jinping gives me money for a stimulus. So what do I do with that money? Do I buy a fridge or a car? Or do I repay the, mortgage? And like we were just discussing, Asian mentality है उसका भी, Chinese का भी. What Rajiv Narayanan said, वो तो Asian mentality है, he'll repay the loan first, mortgage चुका देगा so that he is free of all that. If he is free of all that, what has the stimulus done? पैसा यहाँ से लेके वहाँ वापस आ गया. And net economy thing is zero. People are not under mortgage, they become relatively rich. Is this what China wants? China doesn't want a rich state and a rich people. They want a rich state and a poor people. The stimulus might end up China being a poor China with rich people. And that is the risk which Xi Jinping doesn't want to take at all. Have anything to say on this? Yeah, please.
No, bilkul, sir. And a lot of stimulus, I would say, in 2007 is when they started constructing, and from 2009 onwards, we started hearing of all these ghost cities and roads leading to nowhere, and they created all these high-speed trains. It's very nice to say I have 30,000 kilometers, 60,000 kilometers of bullet train, when it is actually a white elephant. Nobody goes in that. Like,
yeah, it's only 25% occupancy.
2018, I went from Chengdu to Beijing. I bought that ticket. I said, bullet train, let me travel. My coach had a seating of 72. We were 8 people in that.
Yeah.
Total 8 people in that coach of 72.
So,
and there were hardly anybody out there when I came. It's a special platform where you come, which is separate from the normal platforms. There were hardly any people out there.
So that's how it is. Yeah. Over to you.
So now I'm looking at crystal gazing. Though I don't think she will ever be able to recover, because power flows from the barrel of the gun, and I'm quite certain that Chiang Kai-shek has taken control of PLA from him. So one is, if they succeed in clipping Xi Jinping's wings, then who comes next also stays as a question mark. That will they start dictating? Will they start bringing back people like Sun Genkai was there, Hu Chunhua is there, Chin Miner is there, or will they go back all the way back to Bojilai? So
he's also old.
Sir.
Oh,
so
sorry.
That's why I said Sun Genkai is there and Chen Miner and Hu Chunhua is there. Would you get an autocrat who starts putting curbs on CPC? Then you'll again have internal turmoil. Or are you looking at a socialistic democracy or a democratic China? Again, internal turmoil, which is what I was saying. How does CPC manage this now? And more it is pointing that if there is a power struggle within CPC and within PLA, there is likely going to be a period of internal turmoil before somebody comes up to take the leadership role. Till now, I feel at present only Chiang Kai-shek has thrown his hat because he's taken control of the PLA. Who from CPC is going to stand up to him, and who within the PLA? And we should not forget the PAP. PAP is also the armed police, which is also directly under the CMC. We don't know as yet whether PAP is with Chiang Kai-shek. So who comes? There is going to be a crisis period within China, which is going to impact economically. Let's be very clear that there is going to be a global impact, because like I was mentioning, and General was also mentioning, that it is still a sizable global supply chain hub. And when there is an internal turmoil, the hub gets hit. Like when zero COVID policy hit it, the hub got hit badly. So here also the hub is going to get hit. Are we preparing ourselves for this? Because I don't know. I cannot predict how long this turmoil will take place. When Mao became sick, and for a period of 4 years he was sick until he passed away, the fight was between Deng Xiaoping and his allies and the Gang of Four. That time they were not that integrated in the global economy. So that fight didn't impact anybody. Today it is going to impact. Like COVID showed how badly it impacted. Again, if it is going for 2, 3, 4 years, it's part of the global supply chain hub. The global economy is linked to it. Our economy is linked to it. We still have so much of dependencies on China. Have we come out of it as yet? No, we have not yet. You're trying to, you've not yet come out of it. So you got to prepare for this. Be ready to prepare for this. I'm not saying it will happen. It could happen. But if you have not prepared for the worst, like in Forge, when we go anywhere, You always make your contingency plans and prepare for the worst. So if you're prepared for the worst, even if it's a minor hiccup, you're able to go through. But if you're prepared only for a minor hiccup, if the worst happens, then you're not ready. So isme you get opportunities. And this window, my reading is 20 years is the maximum that the winds are flowing. What the Chinese say, na, 𝗎, the flow of 𝗎, the strategic construct of power, that you are getting if you are able to grab this opportunity. But you need you have to make sure that your internal and external security is strong. You have to make sure you got to secure that. अगर वो नहीं है तो आपको नहीं हो सकता. Your infra has to be in place. If you are dreaming to be a major regional supply chain hub, infra के बगैर नहीं हो सकता. Just road and rail will not get you. You need your Sagarmala also in place. You need Vizhinjam port. You need your Kochi port, and you need that Galathea deep sea port in Greater Nicobar. All these, along with the Sagarmala road, rail, will be able to ensure that you get it. If you drag it for 20 years, you have missed the bus. Demographic dividend, skill development, it's a double-edged sword. Demographic dividend is a double-edged sword. If you've not given them the correct skills for the current emerging and evolving technologies, you lost the bus. Like a lot of people say, AI is going to make people lose jobs. Yeah, you'll make people lose the current type of jobs. But the type of jobs which the AI-infused production chains are going to bring in factory will be different. The skill levels required are different. Are you preparing them with those skill levels?
That's the question.
I get 3D printing. Good. Are you having the skill levels to make those 3D printing machines, sustain and maintain them and run them? The technology required is very different. So your skill development has to be that. If you miss, and you got to think on your feet and keep moving forward. And when you're doing this, you need to have your industrial hubs in every state to have. And the state has to dissipate it towards the second, third tier and fourth tier cities also, where the MSMEs and all can come in, the ancillaries can come in. Don't keep it at very single place. That is when you will be able to reduce your income disparity. Oh, I'm going to 5 trillion, 10 trillion, 15 trillion means nothing. If you have not achieved this, it means nothing. If income disparity is not there, कोई मतलब नहीं है उसका 5 trillion economy or third or second greatest economy means nothing. You will be making the same error that Chinese have done. Now you got to start looking at what policies to do to improve further. Ease of doing business, your innovation, startups, MSMEs. Now I'm told the the finance minister has said about giving them loans and other things. You got to hold the startups and the MSMEs, you got to hold them. It's not just the big tech, the production linked in scheme करेंगे और big tech वालों को ही देंगे. तो MSMEs कहाँ है? उसके बगैर big tech क्या करेगा? You need that. And for Atmanirbhar Bharat, that is A and B, I make it short form, you need a Sudrid, Saksham and Samrid Bharat. Sudrid means you got to be secure and strong. Saksham means all this skill development. And that is how you become Samrid. Then Sudrid includes your infrastructure and the security of your infrastructure. That's how you will get economic growth. All three have to be responsible. And then when you look at yourself to be a net security provider, which is Samrakshak, उसके बाद ही बनोगे यार. कोई एक चीज को लेके you don't become a net security provider. So ये opportunities हैं, तो lessons क्या? Like I said, ensure a stable, secure environment within, and you're getting threats and damages of collapsing states next door. So we'll be talking more about that in our next series. So I will leave it at that. Again, don't try to be another China. Learn from it and be a strong India or Bharat. Don't replicate China. And don't miss the wood for the trees. High-tech के पीछे आप लो और मीडियम तक प्रोडक्शन को भूल मत जाना, उसका भी मार्केट बहुत बड़ा है। चाइना जितना भी कोलैप्स हो रहा है, उसका इकोनॉमी सस्टेनिंग इटसेल्फ ऑन दिस लो एंड मीडियम टेक प्रोडक्शन, both run parallel. And of course the answer is infra. Infra के बगैर आप कुछ नहीं कर सकते. Ease of doing business. Why are we not looking at securing our resources by investing it at the source? You're crying कि मेरे को ये चाहिए वो चाहिए. You don't need to secure your resources by buying off that resource. No. Invest करो, 26-30% उस कंपनी को दो, हाथ पकड़ के उसको चलाना शुरू करो. 26-30% आ जाए तो इंटरनेशनली एनीवेयर यू विल हैव योर डायरेक्टर ऑन द बोर्ड पॉलिसी में. एंड लास्ट पॉइंट, अगेन आई विल रिपीट, योर स्किल डेवलप. योर डेमोग्राफिक डिविडेंड बहुत सुन रहा हूं मैं भाई साहब. इट्स अ डबल एज स्वॉर्ड. एज दे से, आइडल माइंड इज अ डेविल्स वर्कशॉप. स्किल डेवलपमेंट नहीं किया, then that chap is going to be on the streets against you. Please remember that.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
finally, to conclude, all I can say is PRC has got caught in its own mouthtrap. So that's how you are getting an opportunity. You must have a clear vision, your core, basic and hedging strategies. क्या करना है अभी, ये आगे 20 साल के लिए, to become आत्मनिर्भर in medium to long term. So this will enable clarity in type of compromises we need to do. याद रख लो यार, you have not become any big power. ये मैं सुन रहा हूँ इंडिया ये हो गया, भाई साहब अभी आप आपके पास पोटेंशियल है और उस कगार में खड़े हो कि सही रास्ता पकड़ोगे तो पहुंच सकते हो. तो उस रास्ते में जाने में, लेट्स बी रियलिस्टिक, यू विल हैव टू डू कॉम्प्रोमाइजेस. क्योंकि आपके पास अगर कैपेसिटी है तो पैसे टेक्नोलॉजी कहीं और है. सो यू कैनॉट but do compromises at least in the near to medium term to secure your interests. So अगर अभी से आप clear हैं तो you can have your red lines within which you are able to do your compromises कि इससे ज़्यादा मैं दे नहीं सकता. And you have to focus on infrastructure development, education and skill development, your own fiscal policy, trade commerce policy. तभी जाके आपका long term में आप आत्मनिर्भर बनोगे. It's all okay to give a vision 2047. It's all okay to give a pathway to say कि मैं इस तरह से जाऊंगा, but उस रास्ते में चलने के लिए have you got the things in place to actualize that path? That is what is more important. That is what, यानी ये मौका मिल रहा है आपको, अगर छोड़ दिया तो 100-200 साल के पहले बाद आपको मौका फिर मिलेगा, इतने जल्दी मौका मिलेगा नहीं.
Yeah. Right. We're done?
हाँ, so we're
Okay.
done.
Yeah, we're done. I think that was the sum total of the whole thing. If I have to summarize and say, China is caught in its own trap. And in that trap, we call it a mouse trap or an elephant trap, it's caught, or a dragon trap, it's caught. And we have the opportunity. How we utilize this opportunity is the $1 million question for us. And we'll focus on all these because this is just one part of the story. There are more issues in this thing which I will focus. That's why I said this is a series. Why am I doing this? Again, I'm going to repeat. Why am I doing this series on China and its vulnerability and everything? It's because we have opened a new chapter with China. Every step hereafter, after Mr. Modi and Xi Jinping have met in Kazan, there's a new chapter opening up for India. And we have to be very clear. And with Mr. Trump sitting there, who's come new, there's another angle which has opened up. The geopolitical scene is going to change. They already talk of, can we finish the Russia-Ukraine war? There's already talk of, what to do with Israel and Hamas and all these fellows and Israel, Iran and all that. There is, today I heard, Kevin Rudd, who was the ex-Prime Minister of Australia. He's written a book on Xi Jinping. And he says, look, this Global Development Initiative, Global Security Initiative, and the Global Civilizational Initiative are all, if you put it in one wrap, it indicates a new world order, which Xi Jinping is trying to establish. And it is supported by BRI. After all, BRI already has 160 countries. Okay. Now, if you see this, there's an alternate global order which China is trying to set up. And in that alternate global order, can it establish it or not? People know it. Trump will go after it, hammer and tong, and whole thing is changing. So it is in this change we have to see how to handle China on the LAC, how to handle it on the Indian Ocean region, in the larger geopolitical issues. However, is it going? There is also talk of China going through something like what Russia has experienced, a collapse. They also talk of Japanification. We're going to discuss all this, right? Every Thursday is what we're going to do at 8 o'clock. And in between, I'll fill it up with, at least for the next 2 weeks, it's going to be all about climate and the demography. So please understand, no one is saying, we're never going to say that China will collapse. China will be there. Okay. It is only going to be a weak China, a weaker China. I wouldn't say weak China also, it will be a weaker China than what it is today.
And the
Okay.
other
And
issue
that's
we are
the reality.
highlighting is there's going to be a period of, likely to be a period of internal struggle.
Internal turmoil.
When there is an internal turmoil and internal struggle, its factories get affected. Dependencies are there, and that is why I was saying that there's going to be a global impact on the economy. This internal struggle within China will have global impact, and our dependencies are there. Let's not wish it away.
There on the China. Not only that, you not only had dependent, you have live borders with him. And you have a problem in the Indian Ocean region. You have a problem in your neighborhood. So there are many factors. They're not going to fall. Please remember, China will become a bigger problem as we go along. Why do you think we're doing all this? To solve the bigger problem and not to wish it away. Okay? Please understand this. Well, fine. I think we've covered a whole lot of questions. I'll not be able to take more questions than this at this point of time. Get back tomorrow when we start with the series on climate change and how it will limit China's power overall. But for now, I must thank General Rajiv Narayanan for having put across this thing in an original form, because what you have seen today, you will not get anywhere else. That I know. It's not there in any document. It's not there in any write-up anywhere. It's only here. So I would request all of you, those of you who are interested in learning more about China, please do join this channel and subscribe to it. And also, if you like this, please put up that thumb button, like button, and I'll be grateful to all of you. Rajiv, anything more you have to say? Otherwise, we'll say Jai Hind.
No, sir. Only thing I will again remind the people, we are saying China is declining. Where is it declining from? From the stratosphere it was hoping to reach. It's not going to disappear. Let's not get this thing that it is going to disappear. It's not going to disappear. It is still a major global supply chain hub even today. At least low and medium tech method, it's a huge global supply chain hub. Our own dependencies are so much in the low and medium tech on them. So the thing is to prepare and make sure how you can able to sustain that crisis, sustain yourself. Can you take out and diversify, do something? That is what is the issues that we are discussing.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Good evening and Jai Hind to everyone.
Jai Bharat.